Welcome back to the Reseller Journey podcast. And in this episode, we got my brother Brad with Surfs Up Finds. Maybe you guys have seen him. I know if you're watching YouTube reselling content, one of his videos probably popped up on your homepage. And we're going to be talking all things reselling market updates, kind of deep diving into his business, sharing, some of the numbers and where he sees his business going. So I don't want to waste any more time. I want to jump into it and start off with this question of what do you see going on in the reselling market? It's kind of crazy. You see a lot of things more and more with this live selling stuff and things like with cross listing. I want your update first before we dive into your background. What do you think is going on in the reselling market right now? What's the pulse?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. There's a lot going on, I think more than ever. Before we go into my history, I've been around a while reselling, and live selling has become really, really popular and really, really big. More people selling and more people buying now than ever before on places like Whatnot. And then I think eBay's trying to get into that, and Poshmark's trying to get into that, but Whatnot's really the leader. But then there's a huge place still for the eBays, the Mercaris, the Depops, the platforms that are just the selling platforms. And there's more people again selling on those and shopping on those than ever before.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm seeing it more and more talked about, more and more of the people that have an audience starting to transition over there, build that community. Because when it's all said and done, it's really comes down to like that community aspect. Like it's very much you're building a community, of super fans, people that want to support you, people that, maybe they're just resellers and they want to get a good deal. That I applaud as well. So yeah, big things happening. Definitely so different than just 4 years ago since I've been reselling. This was wild. I did not think it was going to last. I think it was going to be a one and done type of deal. Um, like I guess now just expand upon like who is Brad? Like you talk a lot, and this resonates with me real well because I came from the 9 to 5. What is your history like? Because you've been a teacher and now you're reselling. Kind of just
Yeah.
explain what was that transition? How long ago was it? And what initially got you into this type of business?
Well, I actually to go way, way back, I started reselling in high school. I started eBay in 2001, actually.
Nice.
And my dad was a teacher as well. My
Mhm.
mom, I followed in their footsteps. And it was great because my dad and his partner didn't do the internet. So I would go on the estate sales and I'm like, man, your price, the eBay says I can get this. So I started doing that, never touching clothing,
Yeah.
always antiques, collectibles, the higher ticket items.
Mhm.
So I started there. And then college came along, and that definitely supplemented some fun stuff in college. And then when I became a teacher, teachers don't get paid a lot, so reselling was a huge part of my life, as far as play. And once we had kids, playing hospital bills and toys and vacations and all the above. And then in 2016, my dad quit doing, he retired from doing estate sales. So I didn't get to have the opportunity to get those antiques, those big hitters, the home runs, as we call them in reselling world. But I had to adapt. I had to find something else to replace that income, and got on YouTube and saw that clothing was a niche that people were just starting to talk about. One big hitters, one home runs, but it was something to make money. So in 2016, I remember it was spring break, my kid's 1-year-old birthday. I threw some stuff on eBay, as I know how to do, and came back to a whole bunch of sales in clothing. I'm like, wow, there's something here.
Yeah.
So been selling clothing ever since, and
Mhm.
went full time about 2 years ago.
Okay, nice. Are you a reseller that loves to go sourcing and loves to shop? Well, right now we are hiring in our wholesale team of over 31 members. We provide you with a brand list of over 300 brands, and we are buying all the brands on that list. It's a great opportunity to double your money. And right now we're helping people pay off their kids' student loans. You could check out right here. This lady's been on the team and we've been able to help her make some extra money. So if this sounds something interesting to you and you love to go shopping and you love to source, book a call, click a link down below, and we'd love to see if we can be a good fit. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Same thing here. I kind of just stumbled into clothing because I was media, I was video games, trading cards, books. And then I realized, clothing is so much in abundance and it's wasted so often than not. That's the most thing that's thrown away in America is clothing. So that's beautiful. So you've been doing it full time 2 years. Is that what initially motivated you to start reselling? Was just kind of seeing it from, as you were growing up, you knew that you could turn this into a business?
To be honest, I've always had hustle in my blood. I mean, middle school, I was selling candy bars. I never sold anything illegal, but middle school candy bars, I always had
Yep.
that hustle. My
Yep.
dad naturally, so had it
That's awesome.
naturally. A great extra income stream, and yeah, um, just took it from there. Now, I also want to say, I never intended it to be a full time job. To be honest, my teaching career was good. It was pretty easy for what I was doing. I really enjoyed it. And then the pandemic hit. And it was the great, what they call that? The great, not the great resignation. So
Oh,
everyone
okay.
was leaving, and us teachers were stuck in the classrooms with no help, more kids, and it was just a rough time. And I'm like, you know what? I have this to fall back on, and I'm sure you resonate with that a little bit. And
Yeah, I was laid off personally working 2 restaurant jobs, and it was real scary to begin with, and then I started the journey around real estate, but then I was like, "You know what? We need money quick." And there's something special about listing something on eBay, and it has the chance to sell that day, depending on your pricing and your title and what it is, but that's money you get quick versus, like, something that's a little bit more longer term. So being laid off, I was like, you know what? We need to take the money that we have saved up and invest it into something that we can compound over time. Later that year, our house burned down and we were really kind of stuck in a corner. So I don't know, maybe you could speak on that. When you were leaving your job, did you have money saved up or were you like, you know what, let's just make it happen? That pressure is good for me. And then what would you suggest if someone's in
uh,
that same position?
man, yeah, you've been through that's a lot right there. I definitely recommend a lot of people if they're new to me. I go live all the time,
Hmm.
and that's kind of been my staple, and it's in my blood again. Teaching, so I teach people what I do all the time. I'm on Facebook, on YouTube, going live, and yeah, it's just it's yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's a journey, and that's why the podcast is the Reseller Journey podcast. Everyone has a story, but I know a lot of the viewers, you guys are maybe trying to make an extra couple $100 a week. You're maybe trying to turn this into a full-time business. And the thing that really opened my eyes up to get this doing this full time was just hearing other people's stories. Tech and sports, Mel back from burnout. Everyone has a story, and being able to like connect with their story can give you that confidence and inspiration you need to do this. You can do this. There's no special background that I have that enabled me to do this. Is just doing research, looking up comps, listening to people like Brad, and being taught how to do it, right? So I know that if you guys are looking from the outside in and you want to make this thing happen, you can. You just got to put the things in place that are going to enable you to make it work. So now I want to like talk about your numbers because I know that could really help people. Like maybe where were you numbers wise? Just a ballpark estimate of where you were last year to where you are this year. Is there something you're doing different? And do you see growth, from last year to this year?
Sure, I'm gonna rewind just a little bit.
For sure.
Something I touch on all the time is I think people see that myself going, being full time and other creators on here being full time. What reselling is what you make it. And like you said, you can just start with stuff around your house and it can pay your electric bill. That can be your goal every month. Pay my
Mhm.
electric bill. Or maybe, step it up and then pay my car payment or pay my mortgage. It doesn't have to be a full time. It can be what you want. And like you, it can be live selling. It can be just selling on eBay. It can be selling and cross listing. But I think a lot of people get caught up in seeing someone doing it full, like in life, someone making money right now. I want to make all that money right now and I got to get there fast. And
Yeah.
I always say patience pays. And I think that's the case with investing. That's the case in a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
patience pays with reselling. It's going to take a while to build that knowledge,
Yep.
but you can do it. And if you spend your time like I did, probably like you did, instead of watching TV at night, I was watching live hauls or hauls
Yep.
and writing down or in my head taking mental notes of what stuff sells, what stuff doesn't sell. But basically, reselling can be what you make it. To go off what you were talking about, doesn't have to be full time. It is what you make it.
That's how it started for me, $200 a month. Wow. And then $400 a month. Wow, we're paying the electric bill, and after it took me about a year and a half before we could start paying our rent with our profit from eBay. And then after that, 2 years with some good purchases in between there, we're not only paying the rent, but for food, expenses, and then 500, $1,000 extra a month to reinvest back into the business. So in all, it took me 2 years to do this really. We had about 10, 15,000 saved up. So we had some money to be able to put into it. But it does take so much time, I think like in the culture today, we're so kind of conditioned that I want it now, I want it fast, and
Mhm.
waiting a month is too long.
Yep.
Like especially with things with like the TikTok effect and all that. eBay specifically is more of a long-term type of investing. That's what I
Mhm.
like to see is like, things take a little longer to sell in the clothing category, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And I see like Whatnot is more like the day trading. Like you're getting the money quick. It's not going to be a lot, but it's fast, which I
Yep.
like.
Yep.
So, well, I love that. I love it. Do you want to touch on like projections for numbers of last year versus this year? How are you doing
Sure.
since you're doing this full time?
To be honest, my numbers have not changed a whole lot in the past
Hmm.
2 to 3 years. And I know that sounds crazy, but I will tell you why. Um, I've been putting a lot of time into social media, and as you know, and other people that I've talked to knows, unless you're a big time social media guy, it doesn't pay what probably people think it pays,
No.
but I enjoy it. And if I put those same amount of hours into reselling and buying more things and listing more things, I would definitely I would be above. I haven't hit above 200,000 in a few years. It's been just under 200,000 in gross sales. So that's where I've been at. And again, I think I'm going to be projected at about 180, 190 this year, gross sales. But I'll tell you this, it should be less. And the biggest thing that I've done this year, the biggest change and game changer has been cross listing. My eBay sales have been similar, but my sales are up this year. And it started about halfway through the year when I started cross listing to Poshmark, Mercari, and Depop. That's
Yeah.
been the game changer this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Poshmark, Mercari, there's people there, guys. And you mentioned Autoposher a lot. I've used Autoposher, and there was something they did recently that's just like so easy. From a click of a button and your items are already on other platforms. It does greatly help, because you can't put, like they say, all your eggs in one basket. It's just a little too risky. What happens if you get some late shipments on eBay? It's really nice to kind of counterbalance with the Poshmark and the Mercari. So you're saying under 200,000 with those three combined. Would
Yep.
you say most of that being eBay? Probably.
Oh yeah, eBay
Yeah.
is my big hitter. And again,
Okay.
I just started cross listing halfway through the year, and I started with
Mhm.
Poshmark. Let that be take a month to get my hands around that platform, and I figured out, wow, this is really easy. And I just
Yeah.
started Depop and Mercari right after that. And I've actually there's been a month with Depop and a month with Mercari where I couldn't sell for a while,
Mhm.
but I'm back on all four, and it's going well. I see next year being definitely a big year. I have sold on Whatnot. I've sold on around 1,000 items on Whatnot. I do
Mhm.
enjoy Whatnot, but I definitely think Whatnot, there's a lot of factors that go into Whatnot, a lot of factors.
Yeah.
And I would, and I did well on Whatnot, but again, a lot of factors go into Whatnot. We want to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I recommend to people always, obviously, I think a big thing is you just like in a classroom, you have to keep it going. You can't have stalled out times. You can't be a minute or two going by where you're out of the picture. You got to keep going. So you got to put on a show. Number two, you got to bring good stuff at good prices. People are getting on Whatnot to get deals. So if you're getting on Whatnot and you're bringing good stuff at high prices, it's going to be tough until maybe you build that audience, like you said.
Yeah.
It's definitely a social media type of platform.
Yeah, it's so different, and I could see why the people that do the higher starts, and it's still really a good deal compared to retail. It really helps with that predictability element. Like you could forecast your numbers. Where if you're starting everything at $1, it really depends on who's in the room at that time. It may sell for $1. I've seen Patagonia Nano Puffers sell for $3.
Mm-hmm.
That hurts your heart a little bit.
It
It
hurt.
hurts your heart a little bit.
It hurt.
But yeah, do you think you got 79,000 followers on Facebook, you got 20,000 on Instagram, you got another 13,000 on YouTube, on TikTok, you got another 38,000. Do you see maybe doing a little more live selling, or are you just going to continue to build those up?
Uh, I don't rule anything out.
Yeah.
I had taught adapted PE, and I
Mhm.
know watching you in the past, you've definitely adapted with your life to YouTube, then not to YouTube, and the real estate, and then back. I've watched
Yep.
you,
Yeah.
and so I adapt to what's going to make me money. So if something comes along where I can get inventory really cheap, I'm all about Whatnot. But right now, the way I get inventory, it's better for me not to do Whatnot because I won't be making what I need to be making.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely, I'm not ruling it out at all.
That's another great point, because into your business, you don't just sell pre-owned clothing. You do actually a good bit of retail arbitrage. What would you say the split is for something like, a typical sourcing week? Are you more at the TJ Maxx, Marshalls, or are you hitting up equal amounts of both?
I really don't do a lot of retail arbitrage.
Okay.
If anything, I do a little bit more online arbitrage,
Okay.
which is people who are out there, same thing. You just do it online. But yeah, I don't do as much as I used to because I feel like the secret's out compared to 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when there's a big yellow tag event sale at TJ Maxx, everyone knows about it. When there's a
Yeah.
big sale at Dick's Sport or Dick's Going Gone, everyone
Yeah.
knows about it. So you got to be the early bird gets the worm. But yeah, really, my main thing in my business is, I know it sounds cliche, but I keep my buy cost as low as possible with good to great items. And a lot of people might not agree with it, but the way I do it is get that really, really low buy cost and undercut the market, and you'll have good sales.
Yeah. What would you say? Because good item can be different for everyone. Someone only wants 100% sell through rate items. What is your metrics when you're looking at an item, maybe at a thrift store or retail arbitrage? How much money are you wanting to make at a minimum? And how long do you want that item to sell? Like, how long do you want it to take to sell, in
Okay,
your opinion?
so to answer your question real quick about how much I want to make, it's about time too. If I can take pictures and list an item in 1 to 2 minutes, which is an item that I can sell similar, Polo Ralph Lauren shirt, I want to make $10 net profit on that item. So buy it for 5, sell it for 20, make about $10 net profit in about 1 to 2 minutes. That's what I'm looking at. Now, to go back to something I touch on a lot, and a lot of new resellers look at sell-through rate. Very important, right? Sell-through rate's very important, but I am a believer that as long as an item is in demand, you can create your own sell-through rate.
Mm,
For example, if that same Polo Ralph Lauren, you could buy it for $5. A lot of them, they comp out for $22. The sell-through rate's maybe 50 to 75%, $22. If you buy it for 5 and sell it for 15, you're undercutting the market, and you'll probably have a 200% sell-through rate
mhm.
because your item's cheaper than everyone else's, but that item's still in demand. It has to be an item that people are buying. Can't be an item that people aren't buying. But
Right.
I'm a true believer that you can create your own sell-through rate if you keep your buy cost low enough.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing worse than having a low sell-through rate and a price and an item that's overpriced. That people wonder why they don't make sales is typically 9 times out of 10 is they're just priced a little too high out of the market. It's like,
Mhm.
that's it. So and that's different for everyone. For me in my business, I really try to pick up, if I'm listing on eBay, I want the item to sell within a year, just because we have the space now to store an item for a year. Some people don't. But what I've learned just over 4 years of doing this, that I could run markdown sales. I could run, take 50% off, because my buy costs $3, $5. I don't mind making 10, selling that for 10 and just getting the item out of here,
Yep.
learning that that wasn't a good item. And then having some liquidation process too, because some people will be okay having items for 3-4 years in your store. And I just think that eBay, in my opinion, is going to be putting that on the pages towards the back end, page
Mhm.
300, page 400, if it's just sitting there on
Yeah,
their website. So yeah, I think having a process for, and everyone's different, because
everyone's different.
I started selling out of my bedroom, so it's like that filled up quick. So you need to pick up those fast selling items. um well, how, like, what does a typical day in the life look like for you, because you're doing this full time? I know you got some kind of routine, because you're doing social media like crazy, you go live every day. What does a day in the life look like? Is there some process that you go about it, or is it just all like haphazard, like one
So
boot on, one sandal?
I think I think schedules are very important. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think schedules are very important. I have an overall schedule of the day where I take my kids to school. I know my kids are coming home, but again, I have to adapt and be flexible. I don't like to be okay from 9 to 10. I'm just listing. Well, there could be a big sale going on at TJ Maxx, so I just make sure I list a certain amount of items a week, and then I thrift in between there or do social media in between there. But to be honest, even before this was full time for me, I was always busy. I'm the type of person that I prefer to make money and that goes towards a vacation to create memories than to just watch TV for 3 hours. So when I was teaching, I would be home listing stuff or thrifting or researching. I wouldn't be watching TV. So that's what I do.
Yep.
So to answer your question, do I have a set schedule? No, I have 2 kids, take them to school. I have no employees. It's just me that does everything.
Mm,
And then I also coach my son's travel soccer team, which actually takes a ton of time up.
yeah.
So once the kids get home, my night's pretty full with family time until after they go to bed. But yeah, I don't really like to set myself to a set schedule. It's just more like get my work done. And I always kind of believe that in the teaching world and also in like just the world in general. If you have a job, I think it's if you get your work done and it takes you 20 hours, I feel like that should be it. You got your work done.
Yep.
Um, but if you're getting paid for 40 hours, I feel like people are going to be not as efficient and mosey around and look on their phone and do that full 40 hours. I feel
Yep.
like I reward myself for getting stuff done quickly.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an actual principle. I think it's called Parkinson's Law. And if you say it's going to take you 30 days to clean your house, it'll take you 30 days. But if you say I'm going to do this in one day, it'll take you one day. And it's just like those things, that procrastination effect. But yeah, I'm a big believer, is like, push yourself. There's more inside of you that you think. Like, you're able to do the things that you're dreaming of. You just have to put those limits on yourself, set those goals, and make it happen. I hear a lot of the time that reselling's dead. Selling clothing on eBay is saturated. Just that overall, I can't find product. This is saturated. It's too competitive. What do you say to a person that has that type of mindset? And how can you give them some words of encouragement that it's far from that?
Sure. I will say this, there are more thrifters I see and
Mhm.
resellers I see now
Yeah.
than before. Um, and I'm going to follow it up with this. There are more people buying online right now than ever before. So there's plenty out there for people, and there's plenty of people buying it. So yes, there are more thrifters out there. The market may have more products out there, but there's more buyers on every platform right now than ever before.
Yeah.
So in whatever niche or category people are selling in, There's plenty to be had. You just have to, as you say, I've heard you say, think outside the box.
Yeah.
If the thrift store is dry, where else can you source from? Where are
Mhm.
some other places? Is it online from a whatnot show?
Yeah.
Or, is it from, you find a church nearby that has a thrift store inside of it?
Yeah.
You just have to be creative. You might see people like me that just talk about, I live in Indianapolis, I can hit thrift stores all day long and think, oh, I can't hit thrift stores. There's only one in my town. Got to be creative. If you want to do this, there are a million ways to make $1 million.
Yeah, 100%. And I heard this the other day. It's costing me $1 million a year not knowing how to make $1 million a year. So paying down that ignorance debt, like Alex Hermosi says, investing into learning, because that is the thing that if you make yourself like gold, what's going to be the return? So if you make yourself valuable by learning and paying down the ignorance debt of not knowing how to make $1 million, well, what are the skills that you need to learn how to make $1 million? Because you're capable of doing that, especially when it comes to reselling. We live in the country that is the most wasteful in the entire world.
Yeah.
Like, look, I mean, you can't find product. Go to the landfill. It's being
I
thrown
just
away
watched
every day.
I just watched a show a little bit ago on Netflix called Buy Now Maybe,
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
and it shows just it's a crazy. I recommend
Yeah.
people watch it if you're a
Mhm.
reseller. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Eye-opening, y'all, and it makes you feel good about what you do as well, because a lot of
Mhm.
this stuff ends up being thrown in the trash and then being polluted into the ocean and stuff. So, um, well, I wanna go through a little segment of underrated, overrated, properly rated. Maybe we could touch on a few brands, because you're really knowledgeable when it comes to the brand research and stuff like that. Maybe some brands have fallen off, or maybe some brands that might be in the trend. What do you think? Overrated, underrated, properly rated? Are you picking up Peter Millar anymore? What's going on with old Peter?
Uh, uh, I'm still picking it up.
Okay,
I'm
Peter Millar.
still picking it up. There's definitely the more substantial pieces are worth it, but I've definitely seen a fall down in prices on just regular polos and Peter
Yeah.
Millar in general. Is it overrated? Now I think it is overrated, right? I think people still think, oh, I found a Peter Millar at the thrift store. This is big money, when it's kind of becoming a bread and butter.
Yeah. So there's specific models probably within it that you would pick up, and then not like a plain cotton button up.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't even pick up the button up shirts anymore.
Okay. Cool, cool. What about overrated, underrated, properly rated when it comes to like cool? I mean, I think that brand has been good for a while, but I just see like the sell through rate being slower and slower on eBay. People buy it like crazy on the Whatnot show, but what do you think? Cool, KUHL. Are you picking it up? Are you leaving it behind?
Oh, I'm
Around
picking
there.
it up. I'm
Okay.
picking it up. And my buy cost average is about 525. So cool, just about anything I still pick up. But again, one of those brands, and you're gonna see this if you guys stick with reselling, you're gonna see brands go up and then plateau and then come down. Peter Millar is coming down, and Cool's kind of on the slope of coming down as well. I don't think it's going to come down hard because the hiking gear,
Yeah.
you're in the North Pacific Northwest. That stuff just people don't even care if it's got a hole or a tear. They're gonna buy it. Cool is still good. Still pick it up, but it's definitely there are brands. I always like to talk about this one since you mentioned it a little bit ago. Travis Matthew. I think you mentioned
Mhm.
Travis Matthew,
Mhm. Mhm.
a brand that I saw and I was in Untuck It. Two brands maybe 5 years ago that were just like this. You found it, money overnight. But now they're both like this.
Mhm.
And there are other brands that are taking its place. Roebuck for Holderness and Bourne, brands like that for golf gear.
Yeah. Yeah. What about North Face? So I would say that's like properly rated, cool. North Face, seems like when I first started 4 years ago, you could sell a fleece jacket for $50. Now you could barely get 20. What's going on with North Face?
Uh, what's going on? I feel like with brands North Face, Carhartt, these brands that became popular again or became kind of mainstream again, those companies saw that and took advantage, which is great for those companies. They took advantage of it and just produced, and overproduced. Because now I'm seeing Carhartt at Menards and Lowe's, Ross, everywhere. And that reflects in the price I'm getting online.
Yeah.
North Face, similar thing. I'm seeing that at Ross and places. It's still good, but definitely, like you said, getting a lot less than I used to.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, the basic principle of economics, the supply and demand, y'all. And it's like, right, a business would see that and take advantage and start mass producing supply. What is that going to do? It's going to create havoc in the sell-through rate, the average sale price. It's just not going to be what it was. I can name like a few brands like Madewell, Tommy Bahama, all these brands that were still good now, but it's really hard to get those prices like you used to get 4 years ago. I mean, I remember selling Madewell women's jeans for nearly $40 on eBay. I can't even give them away now. Same
It,
with Tommy Bahama. You have to stick with those bigger sizes, but like a size medium, plain Tommy Bahama silk shirt, $25. Now you can't even give it away.
I don't
So,
even.
is there anything like with Ralph Lauren that you look out for? You know, I feel like it's still underrated because people see it's mass produced, but I could sell those bigger sizes pretty good. Is there anything in Ralph Lauren that you like? I know you're a big fan.
Yeah,
What
Ralph
are you looking
Lauren
for?
is my baby. I love Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren is the overall company of Polo Ralph Lauren, Purple Label, Double RL, all those sorts of things. Ralph, so I actually talked to someone who's not in the reselling world about two and a half years ago. And I said, man, I'm going through these thrift stores. There's got to be items that I'm touching that I can flip over and over and over again and take those pictures in a minute and sell them. And he's like, well, what are some? I'm like, I see Polo Ralph Lauren button-up shirts all the time. He's like, why don't you start picking those up? I said, all right, I'm going to start picking those up. I can take pictures of those in 30 seconds because I only need 5 of them. And I can list similar in another 30 to a minute. So I can list those shirts so quickly
Mm,
and those add up. So Ralph Lauren, just the basic button-up polo shirts are great. And then Ralph Lauren just has the whole gamut of vintage, the double RL,
mm,
Purple Label. It's my favorite brand. It's never gone out of style, Ralph
yeah,
Lauren.
yeah, and I feel like you could really, I see it a lot here, but if you look out for like specific sizes, patterns, materials, you can have that competitive advantage out there while everyone else is passing it up. I've found a 3XB, 2XB sitting at the red, white, and blue after they've gone through their discounts of week after week after week. It's sitting there 75% off for $3. I mean, those 2XB, 3XB have a really strong sell through rate, and you could typically get 25 plus shipping on those. So there's brands out there all the time. That's why I love doing those sell through rate deep dives, because maybe the brand overall, like Orvis, I'm wearing Orvis right now, but the flannel shackets have a really high sell through rate this time of year and go for 20 plus shipping.
Mhm.
Um, that's why I love reselling clothes, because you can have that competitive advantage, kind of being more selective in different categories of that brand. LL Bean's another one. I know Caleb sells. He's probably watching. Caleb, appreciate you. He does really well with those specific models in those brands, and then putting those in the title. And man, he's selling some of these a Columbia puffer jacket for $60. I'm
Yeah,
like, what the heck am I doing? And it comes down to like picking up the certain model and stuff like that.
and knowing,
Um, yeah, and
yeah.
knowing, right, like learning. Yeah. Well, really cool, really cool. Is there a certain balance, because you're creating a lot of social media content? How do you handle balancing that between your resale business? Is it separate, or you just blend the two together? How does that look?
I mean, watching you, I don't know how you do 2 Whatnot shows a day, 7 days a week now or something like that.
6. I try to take Sunday off
And you
because
have
one
what?
day.
4 kids, 3 kids?
4 kids.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a team.
balance is tough. It's
Yeah,
tough, especially, I mean, when you're a solo employee. And you mentioned Caleb. I don't think he has an employee working for him, but you just figure out a way to get it done.
yeah,
And you just really try to find ways to not cut corners necessarily, but to be more efficient, take your pictures more efficiently. If you're on Whatnot, you're getting your items quicker on screen, doing sudden death maybe over timed. sells. If you're new to Whatnot, you can do like an auction where every time someone bids, it goes back up to 10 seconds. That could be a minute before that item sells, where if you do a 10-second sudden death, you're selling 6 items in that same minute. So
Yep.
being more efficient with time helps balance out the social media and the listing. Yeah, I need to be better at listing. But I feel like he's great. Tech and sports, I think a lot of people now know, since he's kind of shown his face. When I started reselling, he wasn't even showing his face. He was deep in the
Mhm.
trenches.
Mhm.
I think he started a podcast with Chris
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, they had a podcast for 4 years, I think.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
listen to that early on, but that guy's an animal where he, gets 4 hours of sleep a night. That's just not me. So
Mhm.
from my 6:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., I just try to be as efficient as possible.
Mhm.
Make sure my wife's happy. Make
Mhm.
sure I'm there for my kids. Those are the most important things. And yeah, make sure I'm paying
Yeah.
the bills.
Absolutely, like, you gotta go back to why you're doing it, and, it's for me, it's my family, spending time getting to see the kids grow up, being able to take the middle of the day and go to the park or go have fun, that's really important to me, and that's why I do what I do, and, you gotta go back to, like, your why, and I see you, in your stories every now and then, you guys are partying it up, and that really makes me smile because that's my why, I like going and having fun, going camping for a couple days. And it's really amazes me because people, when I'm talking to them and they're getting into reselling, I'm always like wondering, well, why do you want to do it? Because if you lose your why, one little bad sales day or a bad sales month, you're going to quit and move on to the next thing. And unfortunately, it looks like the grass is greener on the other side, but by the time you get into the new venture, you're going to go, this is hard too.
Mm.
So you got to really go back, have that strong why. And I can tell you do as well, because it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm sure there's days where you work 12 hours in a day.
Oh yeah.
But then it goes back to your why. You're like, I know why I'm doing this.
Yeah,
And then also too, a thing that pushes me is not like the beautiful vision of the future, but I don't want to go back to where I was. I don't
yes,
want to go back to being told what to do, and not that I don't mind that. I just don't want to go back to that life of building someone else's business when I know I could build my own.
for sure.
So that pushes me.
I think the why, you hit the nail on the head. I think people need to step back. I always tell my crowd, my audience, when in doubt, zoom out. For example, if your sales are bad today, step out. How your sales look for the week? About average, right? Okay, so when in doubt, zoom out when it comes to a lot of things. And when in doubt, zoom out. Why are we doing this? Are you trying to become a multi-millionaire? You're going to probably have to have a big team and everything else. If your why is, I don't want to have someone telling me what to do, like you said, um, your why is, I just want to pay my bills. I want to be with my family, and I'm happy with that. I think people just need to come back, zoom out, and ask themselves, why am I doing this? Let's go back to why. And I do that, Bo, just like you. A lot of times I drop my kids off in the morning and I think, this is why I'm doing this. I can drop my kids off. I don't have to rush to a school and put on a show for 8 hours for the kids. I
Right.
can go home and let my dog out and get to work.
Yep. Yeah. It's so beautiful. And guys, I know most of the people watching have that same desire of your time freedom. Is it
Mm,
going to be easier? Absolutely not. Is there going to be problems? Yes, 100%. But your time freedom. And just like you said, as long as the job gets done. My first few years as a reseller, I knew that if I had to list to get my listings done at 12 at night, but I could still go enjoy family time, as long as it gets done, that's all that matters. And that's a beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is, setting your own schedule is just so beautiful and I love it. But yeah, it's not easy. No, no, no. I mean, I just got done. We just finished the Whatnot show, finished shipping, got my questions for Brad, do this podcast, got 15 wholesale calls. After that, we're going to do the Whatnot show, ship out the orders, and then eat dinner, hopefully around 7, and then pass out. Well, we're going to read. We like to read before we go to bed. But yeah, it's like a nonstop. How much can I pack in one day? And that's how it is. But I love it and it's very fulfilling. Um, So I want to go back to, because I know a lot of beginner resellers are watching. What are some common mistakes that you see maybe beginners make that really sets them up for failure? And how could they correct that to get like the right foot forward when they want to start building this business?
Sure. I love also, you'll see, to rewind,
Hmm.
you mentioned the benefit.
Hmm.
You get a lot when you do social media. I think I watched you and K-Way talk, and he had that thick skin. I had nothing bothers me, but the people ask, you lost your benefits in teaching, and you lost your the benefit of life time, the time that you're going to have with your kids that you'll never get that time back again.
Hmm.
And if you invest your money right, you create way better benefits than you would with a
Yeah.
9 to 5. But going back to your question, what mistakes do I see people make? And this may be different from what you see, but I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on things that that don't matter, that shouldn't matter as much. So, and people say I'm guilty of it all the time. For example, on eBay, I don't have any views today. I don't have any offers on these items today. There's no watchers on my items. I've gone through all my listings. I'm not getting the offers and the views. If you're picking up the right items, comping them right, taking the right pictures, and pricing them right, you won't have to look at your views.
Hmm.
And, if your items are sitting after 3 6 months and you've had no traction on it, then that tells you there might be a little issue there. But
Hmm.
if you're constantly looking at views, I tell people that's 3 5 10 minutes of you being non-productive when you could be listing 3 5 items during that time. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And then now more than ever, there's there's so many free options for people to get information. When I first started, there were like 3 people that I watched. Everything else, there was no Google Lens, nothing. So I just really recommend people listening to people like you and Caleb and all these other resellers that are successful, that have shown that they're successful, and do what they teach. So, for example, people will message me and say, "Hey, I bought this Ralph Lauren blazer,
Yeah.
for 19.99. It's not selling." And I say, "Listen, I never talk about buying those blazers unless they're a big size in a silk or linen blend. Just because I say something, there's always an asterisk by it. So pay attention to the details that the reseller professionals, not professionals, but the people who've been doing it a while say. You
Right.
got to listen to those nuances."
Yeah. Yeah, the details when it comes to clothing, 100%. Because yeah, a Ralph Lauren blazer, when it's a lower tier in the Ralph Lauren line, yeah, you gotta pick up a specific size, and it's gotta be a material that's in demand, like linen or silk. Yeah, and it's a common thing. I mean, I've made that mistake many times over, guys. Like, it's just a learning mistake. You go back and, like you said, you look at some of the things in your store and you're like, man, I've had this for 12 months and it's $5. I remember I paid 20 for it. Why isn't it selling? Well, it's probably because it's a polyester size 38 Ralph Lauren blazer. And, it's probably, not much of a demand for it and it's priced too high. So, yeah, like they say, the devil's in the details, but it very much so when it comes to clothing. And that could be the difference between you selling it and never selling it. There are items on eBay that never sell. I think I told that to Wayne, and it's like, yeah, I have had items in my store that I've never sold for $1, and no one wants it, So yeah, it's a huge thing. I do see, like, a lot of people getting fired up when they get into reselling, and they go out and it's fun, the buying, I'll buy that, I'll buy this, especially when you go to the bins, you're like, it's $1, I'll buy it. It's like, you're gonna regret that because you got to list it, you got to photograph it, you got to store it, and then it won't sell. So it's
So
like,
what you're saying maybe is to the new resellers out there is you're going to be create a pile. People call it a money pile, a death pile. If you're at that thrift store and this is not something I'm thrilled to list, that's going to go where? To the bottom of that death pile and
yep,
might not get listed for a very, very long time.
yep,
You're
yeah,
saying
100.
pick up things that are good, but you will be okay, not enjoy necessarily listing.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too. People that have, they'll list their favorite items they sourced and then the items they're not so thrilled about. Like if you're not thrilled about it, then there's probably not much of a market for it. But yeah, it could be a big thing, resellers spending more than they're making. And if you're doing this at a full-time level, it's a very scary place to be because that's why you hear common in the community that you never want to be listing too much more than you're selling, because if you're listing 50 a day but you're only selling 3 a day, unless you got a half a million in the bank and you're okay with that. And I know things take time to get going, but look at that metric and know that if the sold isn't going up and I'm still listing 50 a day, I need to stop what I'm doing and maybe go back to listing 5 a day before I could start buying more and more. Because unless you're getting the items for free, that's a scary place to be for cash flow wise.
Cash flow.
But there's always a solution to it, and I was there as well, guys. So everyone makes mistakes. Um,
Let me ask,
so
I got something for you. I got some
yeah.
questions
Oh
for you.
yeah, this is an
So
open talk.
I'm
This is raw. It don't have to be just me. Let
okay.
it go.
So one thing that I do that at the very beginning was controversial and still kind of is,
Mhm.
I can explain to it, but let me ask you, what's your thoughts on being a seasonal seller?
I think it's in clothing or just in general.
Clothing.
Yeah, I think it's doable. I think it's doable because you could capitalize on what people don't pick up in the summer, get it all listed in the winter, take advantage of that. You could see a lot with jeans and shorts. It's like jeans sell really well from October all the way through March on eBay if you just look at the Terapeak graph. So if you're stocking up between like maybe May and September when everyone else isn't picking up jeans, get them all listed in winter, you could crush it. But for me, I've always liked to have a balance because I don't like to have like that up and down. But yeah, I think it's totally doable as being a seasonal seller. Um, it's like if you think you're going to be picking up jeans in the winter and then listing them in the summer, that's going to be hard for you. That's going to be a hard
Mhm,
lesson. Same thing with coats and jackets. But I'm always taking advantage the last 3 years of picking up stuff that's out of season and getting it listed in the peak season.
for sure. So I guess I would call myself, I've turned into a seasonal seller. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are like, no, swimsuits are selling right now with, people go on vacation during Christmas break or Thanksgiving break. I'm always like, of course, that stuff will always sell. But when I look at my analytics, my top selling things right now are jackets, jeans, pants, long sleeve shirts, sweaters
Yeah.
in the winter. So what I've done over time, I always tell people, the people that watch me, is I just prioritize. Instead of being a seasonal seller now, I call it a prioritized seller. So whatever's selling the best right now is what I'm listing first. If I'm
Mhm.
picking up 20 items at a thrift store and 10 of them are winter type of items, cold weather items, I'm listing those right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other 10 will be later. But if I thrifted in that afternoon, I got another 20 items and 10 of those were winter. I'm going to list those right now. So I'll have 20 that are spring that I haven't listed, but those 20 that are selling right now, I'm listing. And I've thrifted so much among the years that I can do, like you said, really throw out a lot of cash during that spring and summer to get
Yeah.
winter items, vice versa,
Yeah.
fall and winter.
Yeah. And for clothing sellers, this is huge, especially when you're just beginning. And I will show you right here why it's huge because I just pulled up a simple Google Trends. This is just based on search traffic and impressions over the last 5 years. And I just typed in jeans. So Google Trends, right? The biggest search engine that exists. So it's going to be very comparable to what you would see on eBay. You could go on Terapeak as well. But I like to do this for just big categories: t-shirts, sweaters, jeans. So you could see there's peak seasons when it comes to jeans. And guess when these peak seasons are, guys? When people start to buy more jeans and they start to search more jeans. You could see here started July, it starts on its uptrend. And I love, looking at graphs and investing. So this is, something I really like to look at the analytics and the data. But look at this. So from July all the way peak season to, December, over the last 5 years, you could see that you want to be listing these, July all the way through the end of the year. And then once the downtrend starts past December, less and less people are searching for jeans. So
Yep.
take advantage of that.
I tell people all the
The
time, I
shorts.
just copy what the big boys do. If you go, right now, it's the beginning of middle of December. Go into
Mhm.
an American Eagle or Dick's Sporting Goods or any big store.
Yeah,
What do they have out? Their winter items.
yeah,
And then what do they have sales on in February? Their winter items. I mock that. I do that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then what comes out in February, March, and April? Their spring line, and that's what I do with my eBay store. So I
yeah.
just copy what the big boys do. They put a lot of money in that, uh, and I just copy what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shorts, sweaters. I mean, you can see there's ups and downs, guys. So, just take advantage of that. I mean, Google Trends is a free resource. If you really want to have that competitive advantage of, what to pick up during the seasonality, do a little research, and you're going to be far ahead. Because I've always noticed, I go to the Goodwill bins and I see people leaving behind jackets, sweaters, jeans, and they're good brands, but they're not picking them up in March, April, May, June, July when it's 190 degrees out. So I'll pick those up. I'll get them listed towards the end of the summer, and then that's what I could start seeing selling as my top categories. That little thing can change your business.
It's
100%.
it's been huge for me because right now in the winter, I still have a few totes of stockpile full of winter clothing.
Yeah.
So I'm listing all winter stuff when people want the winter stuff. It's working out
Yeah.
great. So
No,
that was a question I guess I asked.
Any questions? Yeah, this is an open conversation, y'all, and I'm gonna try to do more and more podcasts because I've not only learned a lot from the people that we've had on over the 52 episodes, but I think that there's so much value in someone's testimony and journey because we're just regular people, guys, and you could take what someone's learned and apply it to your life, and it's like a principle, like a key that will help unlock you for the things that you want to do as an entrepreneur. It doesn't even need to be just reselling, but learning from people's testimonies has been a huge role for me to be able to look at, just someone like tech and sports or a bigger figure in the reselling industry, like learning where they've come from and how where they are now should give you the inspiration you need to do what they are doing or what you want to do. Don't feel like you need to go get a master's degree in how economics or anything like that. You do have to have the hunger for learning, though.
Yep.
Absolutely. So well, that's beautiful, that's beautiful. So you've walked us through your typical day. Now I love goals, I love vision casting. What do you see for next year, maybe for you and your business? Is there anything that you want to do different, or are you going to just keep doing what's been working?
Um, so next year, I really don't have any monetary goals.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm more of like an output type person or I guess an input you put in and then the output will come. So for example, I was big into exercise and personal training back in the day, and I always told people, the more exercise you put in and the better you eat, you'll see the results you want. And so for me, if I set a new goal, like if I list 20 items per day instead of 15 items per day, I'll see the results I want.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't control how much money I can make, but I can control what I put in. I can control what I list. I can control what I put in. I can't control the money I make, but I definitely enjoy growing on social media. I've never been a person that's like, oh, I have this many subscribers or I have that or this or that, but I'm doing something right. I feel like if people are tuning in, and I like doing that, and I'm all about helping people out. And I'm not going to lie too. I enjoy getting a little extra for that as a side hustle
Yeah.
as well. But I guess just continue on the path I'm going on. Other than that, I also like investing in other places.
Yeah.
I'm a multi revenue stream type of guy. I want to have money coming in, for example, with the reselling world, diversification, eBay, Poshmark, Depop, Mercari. So I'm diversified across 4 platforms. I want to be invested. I am invested in the market.
Yeah.
I like to have tangible investments too. Like I like to collect
Watches.
watches. Yeah. So all sorts of things like that. I want to have money coming in from different places because if something goes dry, I want to have those income streams other places. And I know you can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're I don't know where I've read it, but the average millionaire has like 6 or 7 sources of income. So, I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it with one, you can. It's just you'll get there faster if you have multiple, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, you said it right because there's seasons and everything. You know, the eBay fixes this bug and it crashes all the servers. You know, maybe you have a bad month, but you're okay because you know have an Airbnb or something. You know, can you explain a little bit more or touch in on, you know, are you looking to buy property or are you looking to maybe get some dividend stocks? Do you have some Bitcoin? What's going on?
Oh, man, I'm actually not a crypto guy.
Yeah,
I've been
fun to
really
watch.
into the market, I guess, since the pandemic. I think there was a lot of people that went in and then got out.
Yeah.
Um, but I've always invested.
Mhm.
But I've never really, it's not that I don't buy into crypto, it's just it's too risky for
There's
me.
seasons for it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's seasons for it. It's right now it's at an all-time high, I think today, Bitcoin
Don't
at
buy
least.
now. Yeah, you
Yeah,
missed your
don't buy
chance.
now. And that's a funny thing also I talk about with people and with reselling, it's the same thing. When the market is low
Yeah.
and it's a crash, everyone's scared, no one wants to buy. But when
Yeah.
a store is going out of business and having a clearance sale,
Yeah.
everyone wants to buy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting how people think about sales and stuff. So when when there's a good stock or a good company that's on sale,
Hmm.
that's when I like to buy it.
Yeah.
But when it's riding high, a lot of people want to buy the stock market or Bitcoin when it's at its all-time highs.
Oh,
That's not really a plan.
get
That's
crushed. Yeah, I mean, there's
yeah,
strategies, but boy, yeah, and the more mainstream it comes, it's like you're buying at the top. You better hope someone is going to come in and keep pushing it upwards. But yeah, if you apply that to like clothing and similar, like Carhartt, North Face, it's like the price is just going to go down at some point. That market will crash. But yeah, there's seasons just like with home ownership. You know, the time to buy homes was right after 2010, 11, 12, 13,
mhm.
where houses you could still get for 250 grand. Yeah, you're buying at the top, but homes, I don't think, just in general, I think it's just going to keep going up because there's not a lot of supply coming on the market.
I
You're
would
seeing a lot more tiny homes and stuff,
I would say
tall homes.
I would love to invest in property, but right now property's very high, interest rates
Mm,
are very high.
yeah,
And I'm not against borrowing money if my investment's making me more money than I'm borrowing.
yeah,
But right now I'm not into it, but I think it's important to have powder or cash ready available.
yeah,
I'm open to it. But like you said, property and is always, I think, going to go up in value because there's a finite amount.
yeah,
They can never create more shares of property. There's
yeah,
only so much oceanfront or lakefront property.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
not.
exactly, and the amount of millennials that still live at home is at an all-time high. 33% of people that are around my age either moved back home or live with their parents because they're being priced out of the market.
It's sad.
Back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you could afford a home because it didn't take 2 incomes to pay the mortgage. Now it takes like 4 incomes just to pay a mortgage. So yeah, it's supply and demand. It all goes back to the supply and demand, not just with clothing, but homes, trading stocks. It's like, what is the supply? What is the demand? I love it. I love that. So, few more questions, then we're gonna let you go. But I want to know like challenges. What are some big challenges maybe that you faced since you started doing this? Was there a specific thing that you're like, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to go back to teaching? Has there been any big challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Um, it's funny when I quit teaching, there's always a plan B. And I feel like if you always have a plan B in your mind,
Yeah,
you always think, if this doesn't work out. But if you say there's not a plan B, I'm not going back to that. This is what I'm doing. I feel like you can make it work. And that's always been my mindset. I'm not going back to teaching. I love kids, but I'm not going back. There's not a plan B. So I make this work. So if something's not selling very well, like you said, it's been 9 months, I'll get rid of it for what I paid for it, maybe take a loss, whatever, and figure out what's selling. So this past year, I've really tried to educate myself on women's clothing. I don't know about you, but three-fourths of our thrift stores here are women's clothing. And there are people that just do women's clothing and make way more than I do. So why can't I tap into that? If a new cart rolls out, why can't I tap into that or kids clothing?
Mhm.
So if they're struggling finding men's clothing or hard goods or something, branch out, learn something new, go into the thrift store. And like I say, learn a little bit about everything so you can walk through the thrift store at a glance and try to find some things around the whole thrift store. Learn a
Yeah.
little bit about everything.
Yeah, because when it's all said and done, y'all, it's like we're just looking to make profit off of items that are being mismanaged, items that are eventually going to get thrown away. So yeah, having that like base knowledge of like, oh, if I can't find, the amount of clothing that I need to hit my listing goal, maybe I can sell clothing and ties, clothing and shoes. That's why I put clothes plus stuff as my, kind of handle. It's like, cause I don't know, really, it could be clothes, but it also could be ties today, or shoes. So
Mhm.
I think I don't ever want to discourage people being everything sellers because there's so much stuff being thrown away, and that's profit right there, guys. Like whether you sell whatnot, eBay or whatever, be proficient at some specific categories. Don't box yourself in like I'm only a shoe seller. It's like
Yep.
that you could do great too, but maybe consider if you can't find the amount of shoes you need, sell shoes and something else.
And stuff.
Um, yeah, plus stuff, exactly.
Plus stuff.
So looking ahead, what is like something that gets you excited for reselling in the future? Is there anything that see coming as far as like a change? Do you see people less being on eBay and more branching out to social selling, or what do you think? What's your forecast prediction
I
when it
think
comes to the overall market?
ebbs and flows. I think it's just gonna
Yeah,
be, I think people are gonna, as far as resellers, I think people are gonna come in and they're gonna quit. And they're gonna people that are come in and become really successful.
yeah,
I definitely think live selling is become more and more popular, like I said earlier.
yeah,
And there is a place for that, a market for that. And then I think there'll always continue to be a market for someone who wants an Orvis flannel like you have, size large right now. They want it by
yep,
this weekend. So they're going to get on eBay, look for that size, that color, and buy it right now. There's always going to be a market for that.
yeah,
But where do I see what I would love? What I would love to see with myself is to be able to thrift, which I love, live thrift. I love doing so, teaching people, getting paid a little bit for teaching people, not charging people, having
right, right,
platforms pay me to teach people or
yeah.
whatever it may be. So I just want to continue to do what I do, continue to learn, continue to teach, and continue to live my own life, be my own boss. That's important to me.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And that's the thing that I go back to all the time is like being my own boss is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this in the first place, to be able to get my time back, seeing the kids grow up, having, four kids in like 6, 7 years. I really knew that I was like, those are the things I miss. I really enjoy being with them. And that's why I wanted to have you on too, because, and also Wayne, just being able to see like you can do this if you have a family. And I love seeing like couples get together, go sourcing, and to make it happen for their kids, make it happen for their family. And you do something that's really awesome is you integrate your kids, you teach your kids how to do this, turn that dollar into 10, taking them to yard sales. Teach it young, teach it early, because you have no idea the potential that's in your household right now. Well, I love that.
Expose them. Gotta
Yeah.
expose them. I
Yeah.
think kids, I mean, teaching, if you expose kids to, for
Mhm.
example, I taught special needs kids PE, and you would just think, we're playing this or we're walking, or I took them fishing. I got them to go swimming. If you expose
Nice.
kids to different things, you never know what they'll pick up on. I exposed my son to garage sales just like my dad did with me, and it might click, it might not with them. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
definitely part of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, our kids are so like I was helping my son Elijah try to build this Lego thing yesterday. He's 7, and it gets so intense. Like, I couldn't even put my head together of like what went next as far as what to connect for this Triceratops. But he is just on it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're little builders down there. So
Amen.
definitely lean into like what your kids love to do and just like get them into it, encourage them because The school system's not so good at that, but in the home, you could definitely get them into the things that they're really more, passionate about.
Sure.
Um, well, I love that. I love that. Any last words for people that maybe some words of encouragement for people that, maybe they're at their 9 to 5. They're like, I wish I could make it happen, but I don't know what to do. What do you say to that person that wants to do this full time?
If you want to do this full time, patience pays. Doesn't happen overnight. Like you said, it took you a year or so. I think Wayne said it took him a year or so. If I wanted to do it, it would have taken me. It doesn't happen overnight. Patience pays. And I would definitely recommend having a nest egg of money before you leave that job. So, not having a plan, having a nest egg of money, because you want to be able to, if something happens, you want to be able to afford an emergency, or if there's a big sale going on and you need to have cash to buy all this product and inventory that could last you a whole year, you want to have that too. So my suggestion is patience pays. Keep at it. If sales are down, zoom out, look out. If you're in doubt, zoom out. And yeah, I would say just keep at it. Keep with
Yeah.
it. Like we talked about at the beginning, what's your why?
Yeah.
What's your why?
Yeah. Just writing that. I know it sounds cheesy, but just writing it down. Vision boards do work and they sound cheesy, but vision boards do work. Figuring out your why. I love that. You guys really need to go follow Brad. He goes live like every day. When I'm on Whatnot, he's live packing orders. I'll put all of his links down below: Instagram, TikTok, everything. Go follow him, learn from the best. He's doing it at a full-time level. I really admire him and inspired by the people that are crushing it. So thanks for your time again. This has been a while in the works. I think summer, we were figuring it out, but I'm so happy that we have you on. And I want to do it again, 6-month check-in, see where you're at.
Sure.
Just really appreciate it. Guys, go give him a follow. Appreciate you again. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Be blessed.